Hello everybody and welcome to the last episode of season 1 of Geordie Pride. We have loved absolutely every minute of season 1, chatting to some amazing people and diving into all of those diverse voices of the Northeast. But we're just getting started. We've already got some amazing people lined up for season 2 and we can't wait to speak to more of you amazing people out there. So if you're passionate about the Northeast and you've got a story to share, we want to hear from you. Whether you're an artist, entrepreneur, community leader, or you're just someone with a unique perspective, we would love to feature you on season 2. You can apply now at geordiepride.co.uk/apply, or you can send me a DM on Instagram. Or perhaps you want to recommend someone that you think we should speak to as well. But without further ado, let's talk about our guest for today. For our last episode, we are honoured to feature the immensely talented Sarah Farooqi. She was born in Teesside but now resides in Morpeth, and Sarah's journey from teaching to becoming a renowned artist and illustrator is really quite inspiring. She uses watercolor as a medium of choice, and Sarah breathes lives into maps that are more than just geography. They capture the essence of the local story. And in our chat today, Sarah opens up about her artistic process, the beauty of creating personalised artwork that holds such emotional significance, and the lessons of resilience and bravery that have shaped her path. So join us in this conversation as we dive into Sarah's inspirations, from the Northeast landscape to the influence of her 80-year-old mother, who herself is an artist preparing for an exhibition, which I think is amazing. You can find Sarah's work across galleries throughout Newcastle and Northumberland, including Alnwick Garden, National Trust shops and the Morpeth Chantry. Expect to hear about the intricacies and challenges of her craft, the detailed map she's known for, and her candid reflections of the culture and friendliness of us all in the Northeast. Sarah's story is one of connection to place, to people, and to the Northeast community. So as always, grab your cuppa and join us for our last episode of season 1 for a really heartwarming journey through Sarah's world, right here on Geordie Pride. You're listening to Geordie Pride, Voices from the Northeast. I'm Hayley, and alongside my cousin Angela, we're thrilled to bring you the stories that share the heart and soul of the Northeast of England. Each episode, we'll dive into the lives of extraordinary Geordies and those who call the Northeast home, exploring their journeys and celebrating their achievements. From the time to the teas, from the arts to the sports fields, we're here to share the tales of passion, resilience, and of course, Geordie Pride. So whether you're from Whitley Bay or Washington, Gateshead or Gisborough, or you're just fascinated by the spirit of the Northeast, join us as we natter with the best the Northeast has to offer. So welcome to Geordie Pride, Sarah.
Hello, it's lovely to be here.
Hi.
Nice to meet you
Thank you
both.
for being here. So can you just start by telling us a little bit about yourself and where you're from in the Northeast?
Okay, I'm Sarah Farooqi, and originally I'm from Teesside. So I was born in Saltburn, and my formative years were spent in Mask, Redcar, places like that. I went to school there, and I went to art college in Middlesbrough. And then since then I've kind of moved around a little bit, spent a little bit of time living in Scotland, but always knew I wanted to gravitate back to the Northeast. So now I live in Morpeth in Northumberland, and I've lived there for about 23 years, something like that.
So Sarah, what do you love about what you do at the moment, and what do you do at the moment?
I work as an artist / illustrator. I paint pictures for a living. I've spent past few years kind of getting better at what I do, building up my portfolio, and I sell pictures in places like the Alnwick Garden, I sell prints and cards and things in the Chantry craft shop in Morpeth. But a lot of what I do now is pictures for other people, so commissions basically. So somebody will get in touch with me and say, oh, it's my dad's 80th birthday, could you paint a map of his whole life, with all his favourite things on and all his history on? And that was one of the favourite jobs that I've done. I sometimes paint pictures for like organisations. So I've painted a map for the Northumberland AONB, the Area of Outstanding Natural Beauty. That's right. So I painted a picture of Holy Island, a map, and that's actually the purpose of that was to kind of show people what's on Holy Island, basically. So when they arrive, they can look. The map is displayed in the car park, and it enables them to see what's there. So it's kind of like interprets the area for them. So things like that. I built it up gradually, as I said, and now I'm full time, and I make a living at it, and I really, really, really love it, and it's great.
I'm a massive fan of your art, Sarah, because the first
Thank you.
time that I was aware of your work was actually from National Trust. So when we come home, like at the weekends and such, we've got a National Trust membership, and actually where I'm from, there's not that many locally to us, so we'll try to make use of it when we go back home, and we'll go to a few different places. And I actually first spotted your artwork when I visited Craigside. And I spotted
Yes.
some of the lovely images there, like the postcards and the jigsaw, and it jumped out at me straight away. It's so eye-catching, and I really recommend everyone that's listening to go and have a look at your website. I'll put all the links in the bio and just see some of your work. So you're a very talented lady. So how did you get started in the world of art and illustration?
It's a long story. I always, when I was little, I loved drawing and painting, and I did it constantly. Then I went to school and loved it still, and I ended up doing a degree in graphic design at Leeds Poly. And in my final year, I kind of went more towards illustration. I liked drawing. Basically, I did a little bit of book illustration, that sort of thing. And then when I finished poly, I needed some money, serious money, to pay off my debts. And I got the first jobs that I could find, really. And it was computer graphics. So it was working in a dark room on a computer, and it was making like little sort of graphics for adverts for corporate television, that sort of thing, which it was fine, but I didn't really enjoy it. So I did that in a couple of different places, and then I got to the point where it just wasn't making me happy. I knew it wasn't for me. So I thought, right, obviously the art world isn't for me. I'm not going to be able to make it. So I retrained as a primary teacher, and I did that for 3 years. And then I was fortunate in that I was able to stop work to look after my children when they were little. Or we made the decision that I was going to look after them rather than work, although it was actually much harder work. But when they got into full-time school, I reached a crossroads where I was either going to go back into teaching or I was going to try something else. And the catalyst really was when I went for a job interview as it was kind of like a classroom assistant in a school, and I didn't get the job, and the head teacher said to me, can I give you a little bit of feedback? And I said, oh yes please. And she said, the only time you looked vaguely interested was when you were talking about that art project that you did in that school with those children. And a little light bulb went on in my head, and I thought, oh yes, actually I loved doing that. And the only problem was the children kept getting in the way and ruining the picture. and if they hadn't been there, I could have done it myself and it would have been fine and it would have been really good. So I thought, right, okay. She said, why don't you just start doing your art again and see if you can make a living that way instead, because I think that's what you should do. And I just thought, yeah, of course, why don't I do that? So I gradually got back into it. I decided, right, this is what I'm going to do. But it took me a whole year of experimenting, trying different techniques, trying different materials, figuring out what actually is it that I want to draw and what is it that I want to paint. And I tried out lots of different things. I sent pictures of fairies to greetings card companies, and got rejected. I painted lots of different things, but when it came down to it, what's really important to me is places and the landscape and what I can see around me, and the nature that I love to go out and walk in, and the wildlife that I like to see. So it was obvious in a way that I was going to end up painting landscapes, townscapes, things like that.
So I guess the natural landscape that we live in, especially up in rural Northumberland, that really kind of gives you the inspiration, I'm guessing, Sarah.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I knew I wanted to live here years and years ago, and actually living here is just, I mean, all the inspiration that I could ever need is literally on the doorstep. I mean, we've got the Northumberland coastline. It's absolutely beautiful. Don't tell anyone, but it's absolutely stunning. The beaches are, the sand is golden, and it's all windswept, and there's sand dunes everywhere, and castles everywhere, and lighthouses, and it's just lovely. And then you've got the cities as well. So you've got Newcastle, and the large towns like Morpeth and Alnwick, which are a lot of fun to draw. I mean, Newcastle is fantastic to draw because you've got all the bridges, and it's just so interesting. Yeah, it's really a lot of fun.
Have you got a favourite sort of piece that you liked doing, or is there have you got like a favourite sort of like landscape or medium that you like to use, or what's your sort of like take on that? What do you like doing?
Well, my favourite medium is watercolor. So I love drawing and I love detail. So the way I work is I'll do a lot of very, very detailed drawing in pencil, and then I'll draw it again in ink with like a fine liner pen, and then I will do like some coloured washes over the top to kind of really make it sing. So it's a lot of drawing, a lot of detail, and then I really enjoy using watercolor because my drawings are very, very kind of neat and detailed. But the thing about watercolor is that you can't, sometimes it's unpredictable and it'll do things that you don't expect. And it kind of goes quite well. It contrasts quite well with my very kind of detailed drawings. The painting is kind of more freer, basically. Yeah, and I really like the colours that you get with watercolour. They're very luminous because you use a lot of water with them. So the white paper shines through the colours, and it's very, very bright and intense. People quite often say, "Oh, are you using like coloured inks?" And I say, "No, I just use the pure watercolour, but I tend to use it quite in its purer form, and I'll build it up in layers to create different colours and different tones and things. So it's good fun. Yeah, it's very difficult to choose a favourite because quite often the one I'm working on is my favourite. But I have got a couple that stick in my mind. Did a very, very large map for the Howick Hall estate, which is in their visitor centre, and it took me nearly a year to complete. It's massive. It's really big. It was so big that I had to paint it on like big tiles, paper, like big squares of paper, and then put the pieces of paper together, and it actually wouldn't fit in my house. It wouldn't fit like on the floor of my living room because my living room's too small. So that's how big it was.
Oh my goodness.
So, and it was nice because it was kind of like a collaboration with all the people that work at Howick Hall, and all that, like I worked with their head gardener and lots of other volunteers there who were really, really lovely and helped me. And it meant that I could, because it was so big, I could put lots and lots of wildlife on, and I could put all the different plants and trees on it, and I could really have a lot of fun with it. And it's so nice when you go out into the world and you see a picture that you've done that people are looking at, and it's making, and they're enjoying looking at it, and it's helping them to kind of figure out where they are, and it's kind of explaining the area to them. It's a lovely feeling. It's hard to explain, but yeah, that was one that stood out. One of the private commissions that I really enjoyed was for a gentleman who it was a surprise present for him, and he was turning 80, and it was commissioned by his daughter and son, and he didn't know anything about it, but they sent me all loads and loads of details of his life. He'd actually written a partial memoir, and so they sent me some of that, and so I was able to include all this information onto this map. So he liked jigsaws and he liked crosswords, so some of it was in the style of a crossword, and I was able to illustrate his first date with his wife and where they got married, and he loved his cars. He really, really likes cars, so I was able to put all the different, he's got quite a few sports cars, he's had quite a few sports cars, so I was able to draw like a Ferrari and all kinds of bonkers cars on there. It was just really, really nice, and the icing on the cake really was that they actually brought him into my studio to collect the picture on his birthday. And so I actually got to meet him, and that doesn't always happen actually, but I got to meet him, and he was such a lovely man. Yeah, so I'll always remember that one. And yeah, he was really nice, and he was very happy with it. So that was really, really nice. Yeah.
That does sound so lovely. It must have been so emotional as well, like with him and
Yeah,
his
it
family,
was.
and just seeing his life on a timeline. It was just
It was actually, yeah, it was. I've had quite a few paintings that I've done for people that have been very emotional actually. Sometimes I'll get asked to do pictures of people who were really, really important, but they're not here anymore, and it's kind of a way of remembering them and celebrating their lives. It's really nice. Yeah, I enjoy it a lot. But it can be a bit stressful as well. I mean, it's not all singing and dancing. It can be quite can be a little bit of pressure to get it right.
yeah, I can imagine that. Is there like what would you say are the biggest challenges for? Because obviously you're doing some very sentimental pieces for people. Like, what are the biggest challenges with some of the work that you've done?
That's a good question. Fitting everything on is quite often difficult. There's challenges. Yeah, there's the challenge is to ask the right questions to begin with, and to be organized enough that everything that they want actually ends up on the painting. Sometimes people send ideas and pictures and things, and I haven't asked for them early enough in the process. So sometimes I'm kind of scrabbling around trying to add things in and change things and move things, and that can be quite a challenge. I've very rarely have had experiences of people being awkward. Most people are just so nice. It's mainly the challenges mainly come from my own like occasionally being disorganized, and also being a little bit sometimes a little bit getting sucked into the detail and just trying to make everything perfect all the time. People keep saying to me, it doesn't have to be perfect. So yeah, the challenges quite often come from yourself rather than from other people.
Yeah, I can
that
imagine
is
that.
true. Yeah.
I'm a bit of a perfectionist as well, and I'm not as creative as you, so I can imagine.
You can go round in circles, you really can. But as long as I keep on top of that, then it's okay.
Well,
Yeah.
I suppose that's the thing with your artwork, because it's so incredibly detailed. Like, how did that style evolve from you starting out with your artwork? Like, how did you get to where you are now?
Yeah. To be honest, I haven't. I try not to overthink that, because I think a lot of people find when they're trying to paint a picture or when they're trying to learn a new creative skill, if you go into it with the mindset that I want it to look like this, and I want it to be like this, and I want it to be similar to that person's picture, or if you start out like that, it can be very difficult because your own style will make itself known, and it's a little bit like your voice, or your handwriting. It's very difficult to control it, so the best thing is just to go with it. So I thought over the years that I would become, my pictures would become much more kind of like loose and freer, and I thought I'd work bigger, and I'd be more expressive. But what's actually happened is I've kind of gone like more into the detail, and so my pictures are kind of absolutely crammed now with detail, and that's just me. That's literally just the way it's come out, and I'm going with it, and I celebrate that, and I'm quite happy with it. Yeah. So it yeah, it's best to just let it happen.
What advice do you think that you would give some sort of like to people that are listening to tonight about like if they wanted to go down the same sort of route as you, Sarah? Is there any sort of particular thing that you would say to them?
The main thing is to be brave. Just try things and don't be afraid to get rejected, because with the best will in the world, we're all going to get rejected. I mean, when I first started, half the things I didn't work. Half the people I went to see either didn't want to know or didn't really like what I'd done. It's just a question of being very resilient and just keeping going. Um, try different things. So the best thing I did when I was first starting out was to do lots of craft fairs and like little art shows, and I had a group exhibition at Alnwick Garden, which was really useful actually. I was very lucky. I felt very lucky that I was able to be part of that, because there was plenty, Alnwick Garden, it was great. There's plenty of visitors, and the Duchess saw my pictures and said, "Oh, I like her greetings cards. Can you ask her to do our visitor map?" So that's how I got one of my first major visitor maps, was through that, and it was just chance because I happened to be doing this group exhibition at Alnwick Garden 12 years ago. So try lots of art fairs, craft fairs. Yeah, you need to embrace all the other bits of being in business. So it's one thing enjoying painting pictures and being really, really good at it. That's, I mean, that's good. But if you want to make it into your job, you have to learn and teach yourself all about marketing, how filling in a tax return, finding people to, yeah, finding people to, who might want to sell your work. There's so much to it. You need to learn about, well, certainly from my point of view, I've had to learn about file formats, about what software I need to figure out because no one else can do it, so I have to do it. Things like that. You have to learn about social media, because nowadays that's it's just obvious that you would need to be on some kind of social media platforms, and that's quite a lot of hard work and quite a lot of learning goes in that you need to do. But it's all, what I would say, it's everything's doable. It just try not to feel overwhelmed, which it's easier said than done. But if you just take one little step at a time, and when you get a knockback, just get up again and try again, and eventually you'll get there.
Can you actually like describe what a day in your studio would look like? Because you mentioned all those other bits and bobs that you do. Like, how much time do you actually get to do your art versus, I suppose, promoting your art?
Yeah, not as much as I would like. A good day, I will go to my studio, open the door, put on all the lights, make a cup of tea, and maybe on a really good day, I would spend maybe the first couple of hours drawing and painting. So I always have 2 or 3 different things on the go. So that's one of the nice things about having a studio, is you've got a little bit of space, so you can have a pile of papers there, and you can have the sketchbooks there, and you can have your prints all around you on the wall for people to see when they come in. So I'll sit there, and on a good day I'll do a couple of hours drawing or painting on whatever I'm working on at the time. Then I might, hopefully, some visitors might come in, because where I'm based is in a large, really nice large old building called Gallery 45 in Felton, and there's actually 7 of us who rent our studios there, and a lot of us are in there quite a lot of the time. There's also the gallery downstairs and a gift shop and a coffee shop, so it's a really lovely place to spend a couple of hours. So I'll be in there, and hopefully around about 10:30, when the gallery downstairs opens, people might come in and find their way up to my studio and come in and ask me what I'm working on, and I'll have a nice chat with them. Normally I will have to at some point do some kind of admin, so there might be 4 or 5 emails that I need to answer. Quite often people email me and say, oh, how much would it cost for you to do this, and are you free to do that? And so I'll be answering emails. Quite often I'll run out of some of my prints, so I'll be needing to go through my folders with my prints in and count them up and figure out what other things I need to order. So I'll be emailing in an order to my printer, do a little social media post, maybe a bit more drawing, another cup of tea. Quite a lot of time staring into space, thinking and having ideas.
I love that.
Wondering what to do about that. Yeah, that does happen quite a lot. Yeah.
Do you think that's where you get a lot of your inspiration from, like those quiet moments?
Yeah, I think anybody who kind of calls themselves a creative will tell you that it's very difficult to well, you'll be the same because you're creative in a different way. It's very difficult to switch your brain off, isn't it? And you're constantly having ideas. I mean, I certainly find if we have a meeting at the gallery and the studio artists are there and the gallery owners are there, I can't stop myself. Like, I just have this constant stream of ideas, and I think they feel a little bit battered by the end of it sometimes. And I think, oh God, I shouldn't really have.
I laugh because I know exactly how you feel.
Yeah, so I think it can be a little bit overwhelming sometimes, but I think that's one of the nice things though about drawing and painting, is because it's one of those things where you go into the zone of drawing, and all you can do is just focus on that thing that you're working on, and everything else disappears. So that's really quite nice in a way. That's my most peaceful times, really, is when I'm doing that.
Sounds lovely. Sounds ideal.
Well, having said that, yeah, you wouldn't have felt like that today, because I mean, when you work as an artist or an illustrator, I'm sure I'm not alone in this. I'll get halfway through a picture and I'll get to the point where all I can see in that picture is what's wrong with it. And it's like, I've ruined this. I'm going to have to start again. And I've had a couple of days like that recently, where the thing that I've been working on, I had an idea of how it was going to go. And then I've got to the point where I put something on there, put a colour on there, and it was like, oh no, I've done that wrong, I've ruined it. And then I have a couple of days where I have to kind of come back from that and fix it and move on. So there's always, I feel like sometimes when I'm painting a picture, I actually, there's a stage where I go to battle with it, and that is quite stressful. Yeah, that is quite stressful. I do normally manage to come out the other side, and sometimes I think, oh, actually, it's better because of that thing that I did back there that I thought was a problem. You know, so that's how you kind of learn in a way as well, by having things go wrong and then realize, like finding your way around it. So yeah, it isn't like, it's not like a craft where you start and you follow a method and then you achieve a result. Doing painting a picture or doing an illustration is much more kind of, it's a bit like a puzzle. I always think of it like a puzzle, and you're figuring out what the pieces are and how they fit together and how to resolve it. That's the thing, is resolving it. And even you can get right up to the end of a piece where you've worked for hours and hours and hours and hours on it, and right at the last minute you can just do like 2 or 3 tiny little things, and it all of a sudden it works. It's funny that, but that quite often happens. It's the last finishing touches that can make it work. Yeah.
I'm quite intrigued by how you start and finish or have the creative process of apps actually. How do you sort of like know what you're going to put in them, or do they give you some sort of direction, and how does that kind of evolve from the creative side to actually the finished result? I just find that really fascinating how you can do that, really.
Yeah, I mean, maps are really interesting because I didn't really set off. I didn't really think I was going to paint maps when I first started out. I kind of fell into it a little bit. My husband suggested, when I was trying out all these different ideas of what on earth am I going to paint and how I'm going to paint it, he said, well, you're into detail, you like drawing places, you like drawing buildings, you're quite good technically, why don't you have a go at a map of Northumberland? So that's what I did, and it worked, and it worked out quite well. So, but then, yeah, when somebody says, oh, well, yeah, I like your map of Northumberland, can you draw me a map of Northumberland, but can you put my favourite places on, and but also can you make reference to Leeds, because I went to Leeds University, and can you put London on there, and also can you put like the German Christmas markets on there, and can you put my my 3 dogs and my cat, but that was in a different place. And it can be overwhelming. And I did have a map. I did have a lady ask me to make her a map of like a world map, but only with certain bits of certain continents on it. And it was a little bit. I did panic a little bit. I'm not going to lie, but what I do is I'll say I'll ask the client to come up with. I give them homework basically. They have to do some work as well, which is nice. But I ask for a list of all the places that they want featured on the map, any like little stories that they've got, any photos that they have of the people that they want on the map that I wouldn't be able to Google, and any ideas that they have for how they want it to look. But they normally, that's my job really. That I wouldn't expect people to have that sort of creative input. So yeah, they just provide me with a list of what they want on the map, and then what I do is I get a piece of paper and a pencil, and I get well, mainly Google Maps, and I have a look at all the places geographically that need to go on that map, and I'll kind of try and triangulate them. So I'll figure out what place has to be at the top and what place has to go at the bottom, what place is the furthest east and what place is the furthest west. And so then I have like an idea of the boundary of the map, and then I'll basically plot on it where all the other places could go. And this I mean, this sounds easy, but it involves a lot of rubbing out, because invariably all the interesting places and the important places are always like clustered around one tiny little area, and then there's a massive area of space where nothing happens. So I have to kind of like cheat geography a little bit to fit everything in. So I'll just sketch it very, very roughly, almost like a thumbnail sketch, but a big one. And once I've done that, I'll get a rough idea of how the composition is going to work. Sometimes I'll need to add kind of like little insets around the edge, or sometimes there'll be like a little kind of area that almost looks like it's within a magnifying glass that's been placed over the top of the map, where all the more detailed places are. I'm doing one like that at the minute, where Northumberland is prominent, but that's only half of it, and the other half is some places in America. So I'll do all that, and there'll be like a rough sketch with all of that on, and I'll photograph it once I've done the sketch, and I'll email it to the client, and they can have a look and say, yeah, I think you're on the right lines there, or by the way, you've missed off Germany, that sort of thing. And then once the client is happy with the rough sketch, then I'll know that I've kind of got permission to do a much more detailed drawing. But it's all, yeah, most of the work happens in the rough sketch, to be honest. And once I've got all the places in the right order, and I've got my composition sorted out, then with a map it almost draws itself, because one of the easier things about doing a map is you're not having to think about, well, what's the sky going to look like, and how am I going to create depth, and things like that, because a map is kind of like, it's almost there already for you.
So how long would it usually take you to do a commission? Like, are we talking weeks, months?
It can be months. So the big one at Howick Hall was months. I tend to think of things in calendar months. So I'll think, right, it's March now. So I've got this particular piece of work that I want to do, and then I've also got this other one, and I'll aim to do both of those in that month, depending on the size. I'm working on a very large map at the minute. Well, for me, it's quite large. So that's probably, I'll be working on that sort of over the course of a couple of months. But I mean, I won't be working full time on it every day, just maybe a little bit every day, or a few hours every other day, that sort of thing. Because I'm always doing like other things as well. So there's, if I've got to display it up at Annick Garden, and sometimes I'll have an order to fulfill. I take orders from my website, so there's always lots of like mounting pictures, framing pictures, ordering cards and sending them to people. So there's always like lots of things that happen in between the little chunks of time that I spend drawing and painting. So yeah.
So do you think you will extend your sort of your pieces, so to speak? So I know that you do greetings cards and maps and illustrations and commissions. Is there anything that you would like to try and that you haven't tried yet, that you want to be able to kind of try, I guess?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, I have just recently had some of my work printed onto jigsaws, which sounds quite straightforward, but it took me 2 years to figure out how to do it, and to find a company that I was happy with to do it, and to had to buy the software to design the boxes myself and things like that, and then teach myself how to use it. So yeah, I've diversified a little bit into jigsaws. I don't have a huge yearning for having my work on lots and lots of different products. So lots of people say, oh, you should do tea towels and you should do coasters and placemats and tote bags, and I've kind of haven't gone down that route. But so I'm happy that I have my work on as kind of fine art prints, jigsaws, and I do an artist calendar every year, and greetings cards. So all kind of paper-based things. But what I would like to do is I would like to paint lots more pictures from other areas. I mean, there's tons of places in Northumberland and Newcastle that I've got a huge long list on my phone of places that I want to paint as soon as I can. But I would love to paint some pictures of, Scotland. I would love to paint a picture of London. I would love to paint the Lake District. I mean, there's all kinds of places Norfolk, I would love to paint some pictures of Norfolk. And yeah, there's just so many places. It's overwhelming. But yeah, that's what I'd like to do. Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine I would just be, like you're saying before, having that blank space and just thinking of all, because the world is a massive place and there's a lot of things to be inspired by, and I could just imagine
There certainly
the thoughts
is,
that come to
yeah.
you.
I think as well, I think one of the other things that I've got kind of a little bit more interested in is painting pictures that it isn't just a map and it isn't just a landscape. One of my favourite jobs that I had recently was an illustration that I was commissioned to do for the Lang Art Gallery for their Lindisfarne
Oh yeah.
Gospels 22 exhibition. And they said, can you paint a map which explains to children and young adults the history of the Lindisfarne Gospels, and all the kind of spiritual ideas around the creation of the Gospels. Can you show how Christianity started? Can you show the Synod of Whitby and the journey of St Cuthbert? And I mean, just tons of things. They gave me a massive thick document and
deep.
said, can you paint a map with all that on? Oh, and also, can you show how the monks use different like natural materials to create the inks? So it was like I had tons of information, and it was how to distill it all into one illustration. And do you know, I absolutely loved it, because it had the illustration that I finished up with was like it had elements of map, but it also had little like monks telling the story, and it had insets showing what all the different artistic influences on the monks at that time would have been. And it just had like loads of different things on it, but it kind of worked. And I would like to think that in the future I could do more things like that. So it would be like an illustration that shows people lots of different aspects of a subject. Yeah, so I suppose maybe it's called an infographic. I'm not sure, but yeah, I like blending different styles of genre. So a map that has aspects of landscape and other things, history and all of that. Yeah, that's fascinating.
I love art
I
like
think.
that the more you look, the more you see. It's like you can get lost in it, can't you?
Yeah, it's nice. It's kind of like telling a story, really. A map it's telling a story, and it's just whether that story happens to be about geography or a family, or an aspect of history, or it could, yeah. It's very fluid, I think.
So you mentioned earlier about the card that you done for the 80-year-old man, and obviously your card, if you were following your journey in your career, what was the bit where you transitioned from being a teacher and moving into art full time? How do you think that would look?
It really was a crossroads. It was, do I do what people expect of me, go back into teaching, and a very good, good job. Really, I've so want to be a teacher. I am in awe of teachers. I really am, and I really wanted to do it. So it was, I had that pressure on me. I felt I should do that. But then the other side was, shall I just take a risk and do what I would really like to do and give it a go? And even though I might not be able to earn any money and it might be a disaster, shall I do that? So it was a definite crossroads, and I decided to take the risk. And I'm really pleased that I did. So it would look like a crossroads. But I think going back to when I was really, really young, when I was at junior school, I must have been really young, like 7 or 8. I had a lovely teacher called Mrs. Scott, and I don't know, she was just so nice to me. And she sort of said, "Oh, you're really good at drawing. You could have a job one day drawing pictures." And I thought, yeah, whatever. I don't really know what that is. But she really, really believed in me, and I think that was a really pivotal moment. And I remember it really clearly. You wouldn't be allowed to do this nowadays, but she took me out of school and took me to Redcar and bought me a set of watercolors. I couldn't believe it. And I've been using these watercolors. I must have been using them for about 40 years. I had to replace them in the end, the palette, because it went all rusty. But I kept it, yeah. And that was another crossroads. That was another like little kind of light bulb moment where I can trace everything that I do now back to that point and back to that teacher who was so nice. Yeah.
I think you'll have to draw Miss Scott in your timeline, I think,
Do you know,
Sarah.
I can picture her. Yeah, she would definitely be on there. She would definitely be on there. So would my mum, because my mum, she's another massive influence on me. She's also an artist. She's self-taught, but she's I hope she won't mind me saying this, but she's a force of nature, and she's still drawing and painting now. And she's just turned 80 herself, and she's having an exhibition in a couple of weeks' time. So she doesn't see any obstacles. She just does it. And I've kind of learned that from her. There's lots of reasons not to try something, but you might as well just do it anyway. See what happens.
Do you think that you would collaborate and do a piece with your mum, maybe?
I think we'd kill each other. I've never thought of that. I'll ask her and see what she says.
Is her genre the sort of similar to yours, or is it totally different? Or?
It's funny because there's a lot of similarities between us. Yes, her style is very illustrative as well. So she loves painting trees and natural forms, but they're kind of almost fairy tale. There's a fairy tale quality to them sometimes, and she loves really bright colours and big bold curves, and she quite often puts an owl in her pictures. And I look at her pictures and I look at mine and I think, oh yeah, you can almost tell that we're mother and daughter, even though in a way the style's totally different, but there's similarities. Yeah,
I think that's probably going to be our next piece. I think like do a one-off, sell it for charity, maybe.
I think that's a really good idea. I would never have thought of that, but I'm going to suggest it. Yeah.
Angela. No.
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder what we'd do.
We say you've got a creative juices flowing now.
I know, honestly, it's all flowing tonight. I want to get my pens and pencils out and start drawing.
Good. Do you know, it's amazing the number of people who come and visit me in my studio, and the first thing they say when they come through the door is, "Oh, I can't draw. I can't do art. Oh, I could paint pictures." And it's like 90% of people say that, and it's such a shame because I think everybody can. You know,
Where
one of
do you
my
think
favorite.
that belief comes from, Sarah? Is it like something from
Oh,
school, do you think? Like,
a lot of people have said to me, "Oh, yeah, my teacher told me I couldn't draw, or my teacher begged me not to take art, or my mum said I wasn't any good." And it, I suppose it's easy to be demoralized when you're too young to be able to realize that that's just one person's opinion. But I think there's something about drawing and painting and being creative that feels more personal. So if you draw a picture and somebody slags it off, it hurts more than if you, I don't know, did some sums and somebody marked them wrong. Because when you're painting and drawing, it's like an extension of your personality. It's like you're putting yourself out there a little bit, and so it it's it is you do feel very sensitive about that, and it is very easy to have your feelings hurt. I understand that, but if people could get over that, they would they could probably have a lot of fun doing it. I mean, one of my favourite artists is a gentleman called Alfred Wallace, and he didn't, I don't think he started painting until he was in his 70s, and he didn't even have any art materials, and he certainly didn't have any formal training. But I think he'd been a boat, like he painted boats and things down in Cornwall at St Ives, and he then subsequently became known as one of the St Ives painters. I hope I'm getting my facts right here. I'm not very good on history, but he basically he had no preconceptions. All he wanted to do was to paint what he saw and what his life had been about and what he was interested in. So he painted really kind of naive pictures of boats and ships and quaysides and the little houses. And he didn't know anything he didn't care about perspective. He didn't care about getting it wrong. He just wanted to express what he was about. And now his paintings are they're stunning. They're absolutely beautiful, and people love them. Obviously, he's not around anymore, but they're worth quite a lot of money, and he's had books written about him. But as I say, he didn't start till he was in his 70s, and he wasn't bothered by any of that. He just did it, and I think a lot of people could benefit from knowing that that's okay to be like that.
yeah, I love that. I'm a big believer of just getting out there and doing it. And like, I think
Yeah,
similar to you, like you can reach a point in your life where you're like, do you know what? I'm just going to give this a go. No matter
yeah,
what age you are, just go out
yeah,
and just try it and see what comes of it. And life's
definitely.
an adventure at the end of the day, isn't it?
It is, and yeah, definitely.
Good. Thank you, Sarah. So I think to finish off, are you willing to do a quick fire round with myself and Angela?
Yeah, go on then.
You're like,
I'll
not so
try.
sure.
It might not be so
Not too
quick.
bad.
Right, the number one thing you love about living in the Northeast?
It's just a really, really nice, friendly place where, for some reason, people seem to have more time for each other, and it's just chilled out. It's just when people come and talk to me, they always say, "Oh, it's so nice coming here because everybody's got like time to talk and time to chat, and it's not like that in other places." And I've experienced that as well. So it's just, yeah, probably the people are one of the best things about it. Yeah,
Yeah, I agree. I like that as well. It's
yeah,
probably the biggest thing when I come home
yeah,
is just that feeling of white space and that feeling of calm. It's
yeah.
definitely a big one, big one. So next one, you may have already answered this actually, but who is your favourite artist?
Oh, I'll think of about 6 different people as soon as we finish this recording. I mean, I could say my mom. because she inspired me so much, and she still does, because she literally never stops creating, and she doesn't have any preconceived ideas. She's just, I want to paint this, I feel like doing this today, I'm going to do it. And also I think she's really talented.
Oh, bless her.
Love that.
And she's also always very supportive of me, and she's always, I know she's proud of me, and I'm
It's
really
important.
proud of her as well. Yeah.
Biggest
She just
cheerleader.
keeps going. Yeah.
Should always be our biggest cheerleader.
She'll have to be, won't she? Has to be. She's my mum. Yeah. It's the rules. Yeah.
Oh, this is a good question, Sarah. Your top spot to visit in the Northeast?
I probably shouldn't say this because it's already getting really, really quite busy, but I absolutely love Holy Island. I just love it. And it's one of my dreams would be to just somehow get stranded on there and not be able to get off, and nobody else can get on, and just to walk along the North Shore as the sun goes down, and
not get stuck.
I wouldn't try and wade back to the mainland, no. But Holy Island, it's just there's something about it that's very, just when you drive across the causeway, and you can just, I don't know what it is, you can just feel this, I don't know, like a sense of spirituality or something descends upon you, and you feel like a different person when you're there. It's just lovely. And when you're on that causeway, quite often you can hear this like really weird wailing sound. It sounds like ghosts, and it's actually the seals that are kind of probably half a mile away, or probably even further out on the dunes. And it's just, it's just a magical place. Absolutely love it. Yeah.
Oh, love that. I've not
Don't
been
tell
in
anyone though.
years. No, we'll keep our
Yeah.
fingers over our lips.
Yeah.
Don't tell anyone. My next one is, what is your favourite local food?
Fish and chips from sea houses. So what we do is, when we want a treat, we go to sea house. Well, we'll have a day out along the coast and walk miles and all of that, and then we'll go to sea houses. I won't say which fish and chip shop we go to because that wouldn't be fair, but we get fish and chips, and we drive to just a little bit further up the coast to a place called Stag Rock, or Stag Rocks, Bamborough Beach, basically, and we'll sit. There's a special little spot where we'll sit and eat our fish and chips and look out at Stag Rocks, and that little, that little lighthouse
Yes.
on Bamborough Beach, where it looks like it's got a smiley face. It's tiny. It's really cute. And there's the white stag on the rocks. So yeah, sit there and eat fish and chips.
Oh,
Perfect.
that sounds like heaven.
And the best
lovely.
fish and chips ever.
I think I know which one you mean. Last question, Sarah. And finally, what does Geordie Pride mean to you in 3 words?
Keeping it real. So down to earth, no bullshit. Just honest. Sorry, that's too many words. Yeah, keep it real.
No, keeping it real. There we go.
Keeping it real. Yes.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much, Sarah, for humouring us on the quickfire questions.
Yeah, and you definitely must think about doing a little piece with your mum. I think that's got to be a must, hasn't it?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, definitely. I'm going to do it. I'll make her do it.
Good. Maybe the first ladies to see it.
Yeah.
So, Sarah, just to wrap up, is there anything that you want to share with our listeners that you've got coming up? Any exhibitions or events or anything like that? And also, where can people follow your work online as well?
Because I'm so busy at the moment, I haven't got any exhibitions coming up currently. I would like people to know where I am, and that where I am is a really, really nice place to visit, and our doors are open for people to come in. I mean, that's my main message really, is that the Gallery 45 is a really, really nice place. As I say, there's a coffee shop, there's a gift shop, there's 7 of us who rent our studios there. We're all really friendly. We're in quite a lot of the time. I'm certainly there Tuesday to Saturday, and it's just really nice. So I have all my pictures are up on the wall, so it's kind of like my little gallery space as well. So it's kind of like a permanent exhibition, really. So any, people are very, very welcome to come and see me and see what I'm working on, and visit the other artists and makers in the place. And if you want to follow my work, you can check out my website. So it's just sarahfarooqi.co.uk.
Lovely, thank you. And we'll include all of your links in the show notes so people can go and check those out. And it's
Brilliant.
very certain that next time I'm in the Northeast and I'm at Felton, I'll pop in to the studio because it just sounds so lovely. It sounds like it's my
nice.
kind of place.
It is. It's a really nice place. Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Sarah.
Lovely. Yeah, thank you so much for chatting to us, and yeah, good luck with everything.
Oh, thank you ever so much. I've really enjoyed it. It's been lovely chatting to you, and good luck with all the podcasts.
Thanks so much for listening. If you've enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support Geordie Pride further, then don't forget to subscribe, share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review. To catch all the latest from us, you can follow us on Instagram @Geordie Pride. Until next time, keep that Geordie Pride shining bright.